there, everybody, and today I'm here to talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine. So this came out in 2009, and I gotta say, this is easily probably the least liked, I guess you can say, X-Men movie, or part of the Fox X-Men Cinematic Universe. And I'm probably one of the ones that definitely agrees that this movie is not very good in my opinion. And fun fact, this is actually the first X-Men movie I saw because I was a huge fan of Deadpool. And I wanted to see Deadpool in a movie. And I learned that he was in this movie. And yeah, Deadpool was very disappointing. We'll get to him later. But this movie is all about Wolverine, Hugh Jackman. But what they do with this movie, it's just so... But this was apparently supposed to be like a series of solo X-Men spin-off movies. And the title alone, X-Men Origins. Apparently there was going to be a Magneto movie, but it didn't happen. But they redid that movie. And then we got X-Men First Class. And that's the next movie after this movie in the X-Men movie order. But, so let's get started. So, it opens with Logan's origin in the 1800s. He is a child who is sick. But it turns out one of his fathers is getting beaten to death. But it turns out Logan ends up getting tricked into killing his actual father. The one who was beaten was, I think, the stepdad? It was confusing. And we get this very cringy scene of little boy Logan screaming once he gets his bone claws. Because he starts off the movie with bone claws until he gets the very CGI claws. And I think he runs off, and that's where we meet a younger Sabretooth, and later he'd be played by Liev Schreiber. But after this is probably the only good part of this movie. We see Wolverine and Sabretooth in various world wars. We see them in World War I, World War II, we see him in the Civil War, Vietnam. It's very cool stuff, and we get the title sequences. I would have loved to see that kind of movie, like Wolverine in World War II. Heck, we could probably even see a Captain America cameo, but we're not going to be seeing other Marvel characters, just X-Men characters. But that scene was super cool, and it's the only good scene. And I do like where Wolverine and Sabretooth are gathered, they're behind each other and saying back to back, and they fight the various soldiers, and then they're up for execution. They survive, of course, but this is where they are recruited for a mission by William Stryker, who we saw in X-Men 2, who was one of the bad guys in that movie. But they're recruited to get some kind of cargo, and they're teamed up with other mutants. Agent Zero. We got Will.i.am, his character. I forget what his character's called in this movie. We also get Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. So, yeah, the next few scenes, they go to some military base, and they're jumping through fences. They're using their mutant powers to take down these various goons. And they eventually do find the merchandise. And we get this one scene where Deadpool, or Ryan Reynolds, Wade Wilson, ends up using his katanas. And he's twirling them to deflect the bullets. And that scene looks so weird. I don't know why. It's just he's twitching it for some reason. I don't know. They were trying to make it look cool, but it just looks odd, in my opinion. But, they do find the merchandise, but Wolverine doesn't like what they're doing. So he says he's off the team, and Sabretooth is very disappointed in him. And so Wolverine decides to lay low for a bit. He ends up getting married, and he works a lumberjack job And that's where it turns out Sabretooth is looking for all the other mutants on this team, but we don't know why he's going after them. He's killing them left and right. He kills this one dude who was on the team. I forgot to mention him, but he has like these lamplight powers. He was able to trick like a couple at some fair, but Sabretooth ends up killing him because he's looking for Logan. But yeah, we get a bunch of boring scenes. We get some funny scenes where Wolverine wakes up from a nightmare and he's like, "Argh!" And that scene was super funny. It's just like, it just comes out of nowhere. Like, I don't know if it's meant to jump scare us, but it's just funny seeing Wolverine just get all angry and upset for no reason after a dream. And we get some, I don't know, the wife like ends up like telling Logan about some story about I don't even want to say it's super funny. It's called the Cuckoo Cachoo. I don't know what that is. But later, while Logan's working his lumberjack job, he's confronted by William Stryker, and he's like, "What?" But they warn him. He warns Logan about someone after him. He doesn't say Sabretooth, but yeah, Logan is not really buying it, but he does, because it turns out after picking up his wife, things go well little. But later, when Logan's dropped off, she turns out he senses something's going on, and he actually figures out that Sabretooth actually killed his wife, and Logan is obviously devastated by it, and he's just like, "Oh my goodness." But I think Wolverine does go back to William Stryker, and so now he's recruited for some mission to become the Wolverine. This is where he is now subjected to experiments, and he's finally given the metal claws, the adamantium, and he becomes the new alias, and even gets a necklace called the Wolverine. And so the Wolverine unleashes, he gets his claws, and he jumps out, he's butt naked, and he even chops like an X, and he punches through it. It's meant to advertise in the movie, but he falls down a waterfall, and Logan ends up, I think he ends up going to some couple, like he finds like these farm couple, and he hides in their barn naked, and they give him the clothes at first. They almost shoot him with the rifle, but we get this comedic scene of like Wolverine in some bathroom where he ends up chopping. We end up getting a good look at his metal claws, and I gotta say, people say it looks really bad. That's the big issue with this movie. Like, the claws look really bad. I mean, there's some scenes that they look alright, but like the scene in the bathroom, those claws look so odd. Like, they look so, I know they're meant to be CGI, but they just do not look right. And he's like chopping them, and then he's like chopping the bathroom up by accident. But later, the old couple end up getting shot after Logan's given some jacket and the motorcycle to find his way. They end up getting shot by Agent Zero, and they frame Logan as the murderer. But that's where he goes on a chase, and he's gonna meet up with the other mutants. He ends up meeting with Will.i.am's character. I don't know what he's doing in this movie, but he's like a rapper, I'm pretty sure. But he teams up with him to find out why they're after Logan. But we also get this scene where he's gonna figure out what Stryker's up to. And I think Logan does learn about that Victor is back, but he ends up fighting the infamous Blob, and like he almost like insults the Blob by calling him Bub. He says Bub, but Blob interprets that as him calling him Blob. He's like, "Just call me Blob." That's my Blob impression, but Wolverine gets into a fight with the Blob, and it's so... The way the Blob looks in this movie, it's so cringy. I don't think does he even need to be in a Wolverine movie? And and like it's such a waste of time. He's just trying to find information about why they're after Logan and stuff. But the Blob does give in and tell him it's at some island, and his only recruitment for help is Gambit. So Gambit's in this movie. That's a 1+. And Logan does meet up with Gambit to find his information. But Gambit in this, yeah, it sucks that Gambit's only in this movie. Like, other than that, he has not been in any other X-Men movie ever. And I forget who he's played by, but I'm so sorry. Here's a massive spoiler for Deadpool and Wolverine. You've been warned. The Gambit does show up in that movie, and he's played by Channing Tatum. I like that one. That one was really fun. This Gambit, he's cool, but like he's just so underutilized, and they've been plotting to have Gambit appear until he finally appeared in Deadpool and Wolverine. But Wolverine gets into a fight with Gambit at first until he agrees to take him to the island. But that's where he does run into Victor, with Sabretooth, and they get into this fight with a bunch of logs, and Wolverine gets crushed. And like the YouTuber, I'm kind of referencing the stuff Chris Stuckman has talked about in his review for X-Men Origins Wolverine. They talk about how like Wolverine was crushed by some logs, and then it just splat him like it was flat. It's a weird it's a nitpick, but it does look odd. But Wolverine does fight Sabretooth, and he's revealed his plan that he wants Stryker... he wants to kill the remainder of the team for Stryker's plans to make some super mutant. But that super mutant's revealed later. But Wolverine does go to the island, finally, with the help of Gambit after his little scuffle with Sabretooth. They go to the island, but we get later in the movie, I'm jumping a bit, but Wolverine and Sabretooth do meet up with Stryker, and Wolverine is, of course, pissed at Stryker, and he reveals that his once girlfriend, his wife, is actually alive. She was an agent who she actually wasn't on Logan's bad side. She was literally just... She says that she did have feelings for Logan. The relationship was real. She was just hanging out with Logan just so she can find her sister, who's revealed, I think, to be a lookalike of Emma Frost. It makes the continuity confusing because, like, Emma Frost is in X-Men First Class, and honestly, probably because this movie didn't do well, they're probably honestly just ignoring the events of this movie. But also, we also see Scott Summers, Cyclops. He's in this movie for some reason. I guess we learn how he got recruited by the X-Men. He does get into a fight with Sabretooth after he was hunting him, and he uses like his laser beams, and he goes somewhat blind, and he takes him to Stryker's lair. But after all this is revealed, Wolverine and his girl do team up, and they end up freeing the rest of the mutants after some scuffle against Stryker. And that's when they try to escape, and that's where they bump into the very infamous Deadpool. Apparently, what Stryker's been working on, the reason why he wanted Logan was to make Deadpool his ultimate mutant. And it all's on this, like, tower. The whole base is on some giant tower thing. And we see the infamous Deadpool that everyone hates, myself included. I do not like Deadpool in this movie at all. I mean, I love Ryan Reynolds, and I'm so happy he redeemed Deadpool in his movies. He's great as the character, the merc with the mouth. But for some reason in this movie, they sewed his mouth shut. And this has been said many times by people, but I don't want to be too negative. But Deadpool looks so weird in this movie, even When I watched this movie, I just thought it was boring, and I was wondering why Deadpool wasn't in it too much. But then when they sewed his mouth shut and gave him blades, like, they were trying to do something different for some reason. But they really could not do Deadpool right. And no wonder the Deadpool movies made fun of this version of Deadpool. And even Wolverine's like, oh, Stryker finally found a way to shut you up. and it leads to a fight between the two as his girl and all the other mutants escape, and they are rescued by a much CGI looking Charles Xavier, Patrick Stewart. That scene was weird, but it does create continuity issues since Charles Xavier loses his legs in the 60s in First Class, but in this movie he's still walking, and he was apparently using serums like in Days of Future Past, so it creates issues. But like, honestly, this movie's probably heavily ignored. But anyway, I was off topic, but like, Wolverine fights Deadpool on some tower, and I actually kind of like that idea, like Wolverine fighting a being on some tower, and then he does team up with Sabretooth, and he's like, "No one kills you but me." That was actually a good line. But like, the two get into a battle. They defeat Deadpool in some CGI fight, and Wolverine uses his claws to slice Deadpool's head off, and then the head and the body fall and destroys the tower. But Wolverine gets a final stance with Stryker, and he ends up shooting him in the head, causing him to lose his memory. And that's the reason why Logan has memory issues, I guess, in the first two X-Men movies. That's been a plot in those two movies. But he doesn't remember his wife as she dies in the battlefield, as all the characters and Gambit escape. And Gambit tries to tell him, like, "Who are you?" And your name's Logan. Like, he tells Wolverine that, and then I think that's it for the movie. And we get this post-credit scene of, like, Deadpool. So, yeah, this movie, not very good. I mean, there were some things I did like. I mean, there was some decent action. The movie has good ideas. They just, for some reason, did not really elaborate on it. So, no wonder this was the first and last X-Men Origins movie. And it's all about Wolverine, since he's, the poster boy of the X-Men movies. But easily the best part of this movie was Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. He's amazing as the character, even in this movie. Even though they gave him, like, very cringy claws. And yeah, Deadpool was very disappointing in this movie. Yeah, I do like Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth. I don't know, this might be I don't know if this is really a hot take, but I think this one's better than what we saw in the original X-Men. But that one was meant to be comic accurate. But if for some reason Wolverine doesn't even remember Sabretooth in that movie, maybe because of the memory loss. But this movie kind of just created continuity issues in the X-Men movies. I know maybe it's not that big of a deal since this movie kind of was retconned, since a lot of people don't really like to talk about this movie. But overall, X-Men Origins Wolverine, I'd probably give like a 5 out of 10. That's my honest opinion. The next one is definitely the Wolverine I'm going to review, and that's a much better movie in my opinion. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.